Hello everybody and welcome to this week's episode of Overcoming the Wednesday Hump. For those of you who are new to these videos, they are designed to do just that, to help you to overcome that midweek Wednesday feeling when you're halfway through the week, your motivation levels are starting to dip and you're asking yourself, how am I going to get through this week? These videos are designed to lift you back up and to give you that motivation and that inspiration to keep driving forward in the direction towards your goals and your dreams for the future. Now, for those of you who are new to this channel, welcome. I'm so pleased that you are looking at my videos. I really do hope that you're gaining value from the videos. And if you do like what you're listening to, please do like and subscribe to my channel so that you can get weekly notifications about the videos that I release. For those of you who are regular viewers, welcome back. I'm so pleased that you are enjoying the content. So grateful for all of your support. And if there are any videos that you'd like me to record, then please do put your suggestions in the comments below and I'll do my best to try to record a video on that topic. Now, in this week's episode of Overcoming the Wednesday Hump, we are going to be talking about working through failure. Now, it's inevitable that eventually along your journey of life, you will experience a setback. You'll experience what may feel like a failure. And how we work through and manage these situations is really important, because sometimes if we handle them in a bad way or not the most appropriate way, it can really set us off track and leave us just feeling awful. And I can definitely relate to anybody that's in a place where they feel like they've failed. There are two significant moments that I can remember in my life. The first was when I applied to medical school and I got rejected from every single medical school that I applied to without an invitation for interview. I know that that is not uncommon in that there are several students who apply to study medicine and they don't get in. But for me, it was particularly challenging because my heart yearned after this with everything within me. Those of you who are familiar with my story know that I come from a very non-traditional background. There were no medics in my family. Only one of my other siblings, and I have 4 siblings, studied at higher education. And so setting the goal and the dream of becoming a doctor in the first place was, it was uncommon for someone coming from my kind of background, because usually, you know, people who do go on to study medicine are from much wealthier backgrounds or from backgrounds where there are already medics in their family, etc. And so, you know, my heart desired this with everything within me, and I had a lot of support along my journey. I had received a bursary, kind of like a scholarship specifically for a student who wanted to study medicine. I had mentors along the way who had supported me. There were a lot of other people that had an interest and wanted me to succeed. So, you know, when I got those rejections, it was extremely painful, and especially sometimes when you're younger, you've got a bit of a skewed perception about life and about the future. So I didn't catastrophize, I don't think that's the correct word to use, but I literally felt like, what am I going to do with my life type thing. I felt overwhelmed, I felt distraught, I felt distressed. I just felt like I didn't know what I was going to do. And I managed to navigate through that, and I'm going to share some tips with you that I would advise you to consider if you're trying to navigate through a process of feeling that awful emotion of failure. And you know, sometimes it can really affect your self-esteem. You feel downcast, you feel like, should I even try again? And it's very painful to even get to that place of trying again, because sometimes when we experience failure, we can then have a fear of failure, which then kind of holds us back and prevents us from even chasing our dreams, because we're scared of experiencing that pain and that deep disappointment of failure. And the second experience I had dealing with the emotion of failure is in I think it was my 4th or 5th year of medical school. I passed my exams. However, I went from being a student who passed at the top of the year to one close to the bottom. And even though it wasn't failure per se, I became very worried because I thought I kind of just scraped and got the pass mark. And so I felt like, oh my God, if I just scraped and got in, that means that I wasn't far from failing. And that made me feel really worried. It affected my self-esteem, my academic self-esteem. It made me question lots of the different things that I was doing that were kind of taking time away from being able to study. And so I'm sharing this example just to reiterate that I have experienced those emotions that you can feel when you feel like you failed, when you feel distraught, when you're questioning everything and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to get through this? And I want to share some tips with you in this video about how you can navigate through that emotion of failure and that horrible emotion of deep disappointment. And in some senses, it can feel a little bit like despair. The first thing I want to say is acknowledge the emotion. And I do think that this comes with a level of maturity because, you know, sometimes we want to run away from negative emotions. We want to distract ourselves. We want to, you know, do something that makes us feel good. We want to try to run away or to avoid feeling those horrible emotions. But it's healthy for you to recognize and understand the way that you're feeling. And sometimes in order to do that, you just have to kind of be still and just acknowledge the emotion for what it is. Acknowledge that you're feeling that deep sense of disappointment. Acknowledge that you're feeling a little bit distraught. Acknowledge that you put in all of that work and you put your heart and your soul into something hoping that it would succeed and it hasn't. And that hurts. And it's important that you acknowledge that because really that's what makes you human. You know, as humans, we won't always be elated. We will have setbacks and days when we feel awful. And it's important that you acknowledge that emotion so that you can then process that emotion rather than trying to run away from it or avoid it or, you know, try to busy yourself with other things. You have to process that emotion. The second thing I'd say is try to look for the lessons learned. Now, I know that this can sound really cliche and you may be thinking, well, if I'm feeling horrible and terrible about failing something, I don't want to look for the lessons learned. But actually, something that's really powerful about failure is that when you look for the lessons learned, when you think about, okay, I failed because I didn't perform well in this aspect, or I failed because I wasn't so good at interview, or I failed because I didn't apply as much time and energy into this specific thing. When you acknowledge that area of weakness that you have, then you can go to work on that. And this is really powerful because actually it can make you even better than you would have otherwise been if you passed. Because sometimes if you scrape a pass or if you just manage to achieve something, you just managed it. But if you fail, then you realize that, oh my God, I need to work on this particular area. And so you put all that work in, which makes you so much more of a stronger candidate or so much stronger in that specific area where you were previously weak. And overall, that makes you more effective and that makes you better. So don't always see failure as, you know, something that derails you and takes you off track. But if you can look for the lessons learned and have this attitude that I'm going to try again, but this time I'm going to have a strategy, I'm going to focus on X, Y, and Z, it can really help you so that you do better next time and so that you become overall better and succeed. That leads me to my next point, which is see failure as an opportunity to grow. You know, most people that are super successful or that we admire or that we are inspired by, they experience failure somewhere along their journey. It's just that we often celebrate people for the amazing things they do and for all that they achieve, rather than really taking stock of their setback and the periods in their life when they felt really low. And so I want to encourage you to see it as an opportunity to grow, see it as an opportunity to learn, see it as an opportunity for you to become even better than you were before. The next point I want to make is try again. I know that this can be super challenging because we don't want to experience failure again and we're scared and we're thinking, is it even worth the time and worth the energy? But actually, sometimes failure can be the test that shows you if you really desire the thing that you say you want. Because if you've got a burning passion for that thing and a burning desire, and you know in your heart that you want it with everything that is inside of you, you'll be willing to try again. Even if you're scared about failing again, even if you're feeling really downcast about the experience of failure, if you truly want it bad, that desire to have it will overcome that fear of failing again or all of the kind of hesitancies that you're having. So sometimes failing initially proves to you that this is what I want. Because if it's not what you want, or you don't have that burning desire for it, then the failure is likely to discourage you to the point where you won't try again. But if you know this is what I want and I know that there's nothing else that I want but this, you'll be willing to try again. And I encourage you to try again because I'm sure you'll do better this time. The final point I want to make is I want to encourage you that delay doesn't mean denial. And those are words that I held on to when I first got rejected from medical school. I just kept telling myself that delay doesn't mean denial, delay doesn't mean denial. I kept on believing and hoping and having the faith that I will eventually get into medical school, and it's just that this journey for whatever reason is being delayed for me. And in retrospect, I can honestly say that I'm so glad I didn't get into medical school when I did. Sorry, I'm just checking I phrased that correctly. I did. I'm so glad that there was a year that I needed to take out as a gap year before getting into medical school, because it prepared me, and so many amazing things happened in that year. So sometimes, you know, having that mindset that this experience of failure is just delaying me, and the delay is going to make me an even better person. It's going to open me up to even more opportunities, and overall it will all work out for me. So I really hope that this video encouraged you. Please do like and subscribe to my channel. As I said, if you've got any suggestions for videos that you want me to do in the future, put them in the comments below. And thank you once again. Bye for now.